Welcome to Conceptual Chemistry GCE O-Level Series. This is Unit 21, an Introduction to Organic Chemistry. Chemistry is pretty incredible as it is the science of everything, the stars, the hard disk, the desk, and even our bodies. These all are made up of different arrangements of atoms that are bonded together, breaking apart of them or reacting with each other all the time. We are going to learn organic chemistry in this video. Organic chemistry is the study of molecules containing carbon in them. Carbon often catenates, which means that it makes long chains. You might think that all focus is on carbon atom. So carbon atom is the thing that rule out the universe, and it does rule out the things like glass, rocks, minerals, gems other than diamond. So organic compounds are pretty much everywhere all around us. So these are the discoveries relevant to organic compounds. These didn't appear in chemistry lab overnight. They are the results of centuries of hard work, isolating chemicals, trying to figure out what they do, and stumbling upon happy incidents that led to revolutionary ideas, a big part of understanding organic chemistry. Organic chemistry is basically grasping the logic behind everything, to a molecular structure, to a chemical reaction mechanism, everything. So let's start our story when the modern organic chemistry have begun. It is right around the mid-1800s when plants like Vilos, poppies, ephedra. They are known by the ancient civilization to have medicinal benefits, but they had no idea why. In the early 80s, there was a breakthrough understanding their medicinal properties. People began to extract the chemicals from them. Today, we know that these plants contain medicinal organic molecules, such as Vilos contain salicylic acid, poppies have morphine in them, whereas ephedra have ephedrine in it. This is just because of the organic chemistry. What are organic compounds? Organic compounds are those compounds which are having carbon in them. And the study of all those compounds which are containing carbon in them is called as organic chemistry. Now there are compounds which are containing carbon in them, but still they are not organic in nature. Now what is the logic behind that they don't have organic characteristic, and why they are not called as organic compounds? Actually, they don't have functional groups in them. Functional group is basically a group of atoms that is responsible for the characteristics of entire molecule. So those compounds which are carbon containing but still not organic in nature are carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbon sulfide, carbonates of metals, bicarbonates of metals, metal cyanides, and metal carbides. These are the examples of all those compounds which are carbon containing compounds, but they are not organic in nature. Now there is another term which is called as hydrocarbon. Hydro means hydrogen, carbon means carbon. So all those compounds which are containing hydrogen and carbon in them are called as hydrocarbons. Examples are alkanes and alkenes. These are the two homologous groups or series of organic compounds which are hydrocarbons. They are having hydrogen and carbon in them only. What is a homologous series? Homologous series is a family of organic compound with the same functional group, and the complete family is possessing similar chemical properties, such as alkanes, alkenes, carboxylic acid, alcohols, amides, etc. So all of them are containing a group of atom which is responsible for their chemical properties, which is called as a functional group. So each of these homologous series has a particular functional group which is responsible for the chemical and physical properties of all the compounds present in that homologous series. What is a functional group? Atom or a group of atoms that gives molecule its characteristic properties is called as a functional group, such as alkanes. Alkanes are having Carbon, single bond with carbon. Alkenes, they are having carbon, double bond with carbon. Alcohols are having one functional group, which is OH, which is hydroxyl group. Carboxylic acids are having COOH. This is their functional group. So these are the functional groups which are responsible for the particular or distinctive characteristics of all the compounds of each homologous series. The easiest example to understand this is that all the citric fruits are containing citric acid in them, whereas vinegar contains ethanoic acid in them. Citric acid and ethanoic acid, both of them are carboxylic acids. They belong to the same homologous series, they have the same functional group, so that's why they possess the similar chemical properties but different physical properties. Now, what are the general characteristics of homologous series? Organic compounds in the same homologous series will have these characteristics. They will always possess the same functional group. They will always have the similar chemical properties, but their physical properties will be different. So there is a gradual change in their physical properties as we move towards the complex or higher compounds of the same homologous series. Now, how can we name the organic compounds? The name of an organic compound is divided into two parts. The first part is called as prefix, that tells us the number of carbon atoms in each molecule. Look at this. Meth means 1 carbon, eth means 2 carbons, prop means 3, but means 4, pent means 5, and so on. Whereas the second part is called as suffix, and this suffix will tell us that which homologous series the compound belongs to, such as ane. Suffix will tell us about alkanes, ene will tell us about alkenes, ol will tell us about alcohols, and oic acid will tell us about carboxylic acid. Each petroleum fraction is a mixture of hydrocarbons which boils over a certain temperature range. The lighter fractions will consist of smaller hydrocarbons, whereas the higher fractions will always consist of bigger hydrocarbons. Now the question is that how is petroleum separated in an oil refinery? In all the oil refineries, the hydrocarbons in the petroleum are separated out by different fractions in the fractionating column by the process of fractional distillation. So how it will work? There would be one furnace connected to it in which the petroleum is heated and it will turn into vapors, and these vapors will be then passed into the fractionating column. See, from here it will be passed, and then as the hot vapors rises up the column, so it will start cooling and condensing, and the lighter fractions will go up, and as they are having lower boiling points, so they will be collected at the top of the fractionating column as gases, whereas the heavier fractions have higher boiling points, so they are collected at the lower sections of the fractionating column. So in different fractions here you can see the petroleum will be obtained. So the first fraction which will be at the top of the furnace will be petroleum gas. It will be from carbon number 1 to carbon number 4, and its boiling point will be less than 40 degrees centigrade. And the use of this petroleum gas is that it is used as a fuel for cooking and heating domestically. And afterwards then we will be having second fraction, which is petrol. It is also called as gasoline. The boiling point is between 40 to 75 degrees centigrade, and the carbons are carbon number 5 to carbon number 10, and gasoline is used as a fuel in motor cars. The next is naphtha. Here naphtha fraction will come, and naphtha is carbon number 7 to carbon number 14. Its boiling point is from 90 to 150 degrees centigrade. It is used in feedstock as a raw material for making photochemicals such as plastics and detergents, etc. Right? And then the next one is kerosene. This fraction kerosene is also called as paraffin. The boiling point is in between 150 to 240 degrees centigrade, and the carbons are carbon number 9 to carbon number 16. This is used as a fuel for aircraft engines, cooking using oil as a stove, and for heating purposes it's also used. Next is diesel oil. So diesel oil is having carbon number 15 to carbon number 25. The boiling point is 220 to 250 degrees centigrade, and it is used as a fuel for diesel engines in buses, lorries and trains, etc. Next fraction is lubricating oil, which is C20 to C35. So it is also called as a fuel oil and lubricating oil, both, right? So the boiling point is between 300 to 350 degrees centigrade, and it is used as a lubricant in the machines for making wax and polishes, etc. Last one is butamin. The butamin is the fraction which is having a boiling point greater than 350 degrees centigrade, and it is having greater number of carbon atoms, still like carbon 70, etc. So it is used for making road surfaces and roofing purposes. So these are different fractions which are obtained from petroleum, and along with the usage I have told you. Now, how can we use petroleum in an intelligent way in order to protect its extinction? So there is a very limited quantity of petroleum, as it is a non-renewable source of energy, and petroleum takes millions of years to be formed, and we are using it at a very high rate than it can be replenished. So what are the issues related to the competing use of petroleum? Let's have a look at the issues. The issues which are related to it are that the supply of petroleum is very limited, and petroleum is important as a chemical feedstock for the manufacture of daily products, and it's a waste to just burn petroleum away as a fuel. So thus the two uses are set to compete for this limiting supply, and in order to ensure that the supply of the petroleum lasts longer for use both as a fuel or as a chemical feedstock, we need to conserve the problem. We need to conserve the petroleum in order to resolve this problem. So there are certain ways we can conserve the petroleum as well. And one more thing, there is 90% fuel which is used, and it generates heat, electricity, it powers the motor vehicles and industrial activity, so it's very important to conserve it. And 10% naphtha, which is used as a photochemical feedstock, manufacturing of plastics, detergents, medicines, fertilizers, pesticides, synthetic fibers, synthetic rubber. So many things are around us which are so important to sustain a life and have a good life. So that's why it's very important to conserve it. So what can be different measures to conserve it? Reduce the use of petroleum. How can we reduce the use of petroleum? By reducing the number of motor vehicles on the roads, driving the smaller cars that consume less petrols, taking public transport such as buses and such as the other means of transportation, public transportation. And we can also use alternative energy sources in order to conserve petroleum. Alternative fuels are there are like we are having green fuels. We are having so many other fuels. I will tell you about them as well in detail. We can use nuclear energy, we can use solar energy, we can use wind energy in order to conserve petroleum, in order to reduce the use of petroleum. And to produce nuclear energy, nuclear plants use fuels such as plutonium and uranium. However, there is a danger to harm and radiation leaking into the environment from nuclear plants, which is highly toxic and dangerous for the living beings. And we can also improve the design of the power stations and vehicles in order to conserve petroleum. So then what they will do, they will use less petroleum, or they will use it more efficiently rather than just wasting it. What are some alternative fuels? One fuel that can be used in place of petroleum is a biofuel, which comes from plants and animals. Bio means living, so the main source of biofuel will be plants and animals. And some example of those biofuels are these two: biogas and biodiesel. What is biogas? A gas which is produced when organic matters decay, and they decay in the absence of the air. So the waste material from plants and animals would, after their decomposition, releases biogas, which will be used as a biofuel. And biodiesels are the fuels which are made from plant oils like palm oils, soya beans, etc. So this is how we can use these alternatives in order to complete the depletion of petroleum. So this is it for this chapter. Thanks for watching the video.